In my opinion, no movie better paints a picture of 1990s action than Face Off, directed by John Woo and starring Nicolas Cage and John Travolta. This movie is so beautifully over the top and so beautifully stylized that it's almost a crime as to how awesome this movie really is. I love this movie. This movie is the definitive action movie of the 90s. No other movie made in the 90s can ever top the awesomeness that is Face Off. Almost everything about Face Off is awesome. Awesome. The performances are so over the top. It's amazing. Travolta is so over the top as the tortured FBI agent. It's great. It's awesome. Nicolas Cage as the villain, Castor Troy. He is so theatrical in his performance in terms of just over exaggerating every movement he makes to the point where it's like you're watching a mustache twirling Looney Tune villain. It's a marvel to look at. It's awesome to look at. That opening prologue alone with Nicolas Cage and his caterpillar mustache is glorious. And his official opening intro in the present time where he's just like coming out to Hando's Messiah and he looks like he's been descended from the heavens above is so beautifully over the top. It is awesome to see. And the Hallelujah chorus for any Nicolas Cage intro should appear in every movie he's in. I agree with the nostalgia critic with that remark because Cage has earned that because he is the greatest action star of all time, and he deserves his own personal intro for every movie he's in because the movie could suck. At least Cage will give it his all. But thankfully, Face Off does not suck because it's damn good. And John Woo's stylized, over-the-top directing just adds to that cake of over-the-top awesomeness. I mean, the action set pieces in this movie are so glorious to look at. You get the first big one, which is pretty much John Travolta in a Jeep playing turkey with a jet. So overblown, so over the top, and you're just like, oh my god, this is great. And then we get other action set pieces, there's this big shootout at Castor's. There's this floating prison thing, and when the whole premise of this movie, before I get any further, the whole premise in this movie is pretty much Travolta and Cage, their characters switch faces because Travolta has to go undercover to find a bomb that is hidden somewhere in L.A. Of course, Nicolas Cage wakes up from his coma, takes Travolta's face and pretty much infiltrates Travolta's life, for better or worse. And the entire movie is pretty much Cage trying to convince people that he is not Castor Troy, and just to get his face back. So that's the gist of it. And of course, they have a personal rivalry because during a botched assassination, Castor Troy accidentally killed John Travolta's son. That opening prologue, by the way, was actually really well handled with the death of the kid, so I can believe that in terms of emotionality. But the rest of this movie does not have that emotionality. It just has over the top awesomeness, over the top cheese factor, and it's just so delicious to look at. So let's get back to the good stuff. Again, look, the big shootout at Castor's hideout, where Castor's gang thinks that the Castor they're looking at is the real Troy, not knowing it's Archer. There's this big shootout there with the gang and these FBI agents, and it's so much fun to watch. There's the like I said, the floating prison near the end where Archer as Troy is trying to make the escape. That is also bombastic and fun to look at, and the prison itself is just completely stupid. I mean, they have these magnetic boots, and the only way they can spy on you is because you appear as a purple dot, like you do. So yeah, this super duper high tech prison is super duper lame. But whatever, doesn't take away from the movie at all, because the movie makes up for it with again high octane, stylized, over the top, violent action scenes, like the prison boot scene, like the big shootout at Troy's hideout. There's also a shootout at a church, which was also hilarious and fun to watch. And of course, there's the glorious final boat chase scene, which is so over the top awesome. It's great. You got this one scene where like the speedboat just crashes through this regular sized boat, explosion everywhere, and it's just like, this is fucking awesome. I love this shit. Like I said, the performances by Cage and Travolta are so over the top and so hammy that it's just a marvel to watch. Especially when they make the switch and Travolta acting like Cage's character is hilarious. And what's even more hilarious is that he actually unintentionally becomes a better father and husband to Travolta's family, and his co-workers actually find him to be the greatest person alive once the switch happens, because he's so bombastic and so like charismatic and so like flamboyant that everyone just all of a sudden is like, oh my god, he's the coolest guy to be around now. And then on the flip side, you got Nicolas Cage playing John Travolta's character, and he's being all tortured and everything, but it's Nicolas Cage, so his over exaggerated facial expressions are unintentional comedy gold, and this movie takes full advantage of it. Especially this one scene where Cage takes drugs and he's tripping out, and Jesus Christ. It's just so, you gotta watch it. You gotta watch this movie. You don't know what you're missing. You really don't know what you're missing with this thing. It's so good. Oh man, I'm sorry. This movie's great. Every time I watch this movie, I feel like I'm 7 years old again. I'm just enjoying it. I'm enjoying what I'm watching. Over the top. These people clearly are having a ball doing what they're doing. Cage and Travolta are clearly having a good time. John Woo, you can tell, is really enjoying his creative freedom with this movie, because he's able to make this over-the-top action movie, and it's stylized, but it's so well put together and so well made. Yes, this movie has like a lot of plot holes, and of course the plot itself is completely over-the-top, overblown, and you could say unfeasible to imagine could happen in real life. But the movie just says, turn your brain off and enjoy and revel in the awesomeness that is Face Off. And that's what I'm going to tell you. Enjoy and revel in the awesomeness that is Face Off. Because this movie, with all its plot holes and everything else, it's a solid 10 out of 10. It is, definition, the quintessential late 90s action movie. Over the top, stylized violence, directed with some style and panache, whatever, Cage and Travolta putting on what I would say the most memorable performances of 90s movies, and they're loving and enjoying every minute of it, because you can tell just by looking at the performances that they're just reveling in these characters. An overblown plot that does not even attempt. It doesn't even attempt to even like say this could happen in real life. I mean, it does when the doctor explains how the procedure is going to work and everything like that. But you can sit there and like, this is fucking impossible. You can't do this. But I give them credit for at least trying to make it make sense. But yeah, Face Off again, 10 out of 10. If you haven't seen it, watch it, because you have no idea what you're missing. Because this is the darling of the 90s. Anyway, my name is AJ Legend. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll check you back next time. And remember, if you need to infiltrate anything, just remember this one little thing. Just take your enemy's face